Morning, sixth graders. Today we're going to be looking at a very specific type of ratio, a very specific type of rate, and then it's taking a look at distance, rate, and time. Now, distance, rate, and time all go along really, really well. If you know two of them, you can always figure out what that other one's going to be. So we're going to talk about how they relate to each other and how to basically solve these different problems. But first, one thing I want to talk about is just what are these different things. Now, very first thing, our distance, here we're taking a look at how far you're going. All right, so if we're taking a look at how far, some different labels that you may see. You might see miles, you might see feet, you might see yards. Any of those ones that are measuring distance or how far you're going. Rate, you also might see the word speed. Here we're taking a look at how fast or how slow, how fast or how slow you're going. For this one, it actually takes for the labels, it is two parts to the label. The one that you're going to be seeing most often is mph, or you also might see miles per hour. Your rate or speed is always going to be having two different labels, which I'll show you in a little bit here how we're going to figure out those labels. But it's going to be miles per hour because we're looking at how fast it's going to be going. There might be some where it is like feet per week. Lots of different ones as long as we're taking a look at our distance and our time together. And last one, our time, we're taking a look at how long something takes. So for this, you might see hours, you might see minutes, you might see seconds. All of those different abbreviations are ones that will be coming up on your worksheet. So when we're looking at our distance, rate, and time, like I said, they all work together. And I think the best way to kind of think about it is through this visual with the triangle. Here we're going to put our distance on top. Okay, that's our first one. And then we have our rate and we have our time. Also, like I said, you guys, you might see this as S. You might see it as speed. So keep that in mind when we're taking a look at that. Rate and speed are going to be that exact same thing. Now, like I said, these work together. Now, to solve these, this triangle offers a really, really nice visual. If we're looking for the distance, and we're trying to figure out what that distance is going to be, I'm going to take a look at my triangle. I'm going to cover up distance because that's what I want. That leaves us with our rate and our time. Notice they are right next to each other. Operations that are right next to each other, we're going to multiply. So to figure out the distance, you're going to do your rate times your time. Now, say we want to figure out what the rate is. Okay, we're looking for that speed. We're going to cover up our rate. Notice we have distance and time left over. We have distance over time. That's the same thing as distance divided by time. That's going to give us what our rate is going to be. And then our last one, if we're looking for the time, I'm going to cover up that time. We have distance over rate, or distance divided by rate. So here, distance divided by rate. That is how we're going to be figuring these ones out. I'm going to be honest, when we're doing this at school, I make everybody put this triangle on their piece of paper because it's a great visual to help you figure out these different problems. So I'm just going to put it over in the corner over here. I highly recommend that you guys at home put that triangle down as well. Distance on top, and then we have our rate and our time. Okay. We're going to take a look at some examples of these problems. Now, our first one that we're going to take a look at, I'm going to tell you what the distance is, okay? Our distance is 15 miles. All right. Our rate, we don't know yet. We don't know what the speed is, but I can tell you guys that our time is 2 hours. On all of the problems, they're going to be giving you 2, and you have to figure out what the third one's going to be. If we're looking at this one, so we're looking at the rate, whichever one we're looking for, you're going to cover up on your triangle. That leaves us as d over t, or distance divided by time. You're going to use your calculator. Like, calculator's your friend on this one, so go for that, you guys. You're going to do your 15 divided by 2, your distance divided by time, and we end up getting 7.5. Now, that's just the number. Label is really important on this assignment. If you do not have the label, it will be incorrect. So you need to make sure that you have the proper label. Now, rate, speed, we talked about how that one's talking about how fast. That one's going to be using two different labels. We're going to take a look at what they're giving us. They're giving us miles an hour. So it is 7.5, and you guys, mph is the common one for miles per hour. If you have miles/hour, that works just fine as well. So our label, very important. So if we know that our distance is 15 miles and it takes us 2 hours to travel that, we can find out that we were going 7.5 miles per hour. Okay. Now let's look at the next one. All right, distance, rate, time. You guys are going to be filling out a table. So your table will have distance, rate, time across the top, and you need to fill in all three of those. So very similar to these ones where I'll be giving you 2. Okay, so I'm going to tell you guys that the distance is 72 yards. Okay, our speed or our rate is 12 yards per minute. And we need to figure out what the time is going to be. If we're looking for time, we're going to cover that up over on our triangle. And that leaves us with d over r, or distance divided by rate. So in my calculator, I'm going to do 72 divided by 12, and we end up getting 6. Now we also need to take a look at our label. Time. Think about what time is going to be labeled in. That's our minutes, our seconds, our hours. We need to take a look at the labels that we already have. So we already have yards. We have yards per minute. You guys, yards. So we know that this one for time is going to be minutes because they already told us what that label is going to be when we're looking at our rates. So if they give you that rate, take a look because they need to match up with your distance and your time. All right, next one. Okay, we don't know what the distance is. I'm going to tell you that the time, actually, no, sorry, I'm going to keep going the same. I don't want to switch up your order on this one. Worksheet. Hopefully I have them all going in the same order. I think, actually, you know what? I'm going to check really quick. Hold your horses. On your worksheet, which is a Google Doc, it is going to go distance, then time, then rate, which will be perfectly fine, but just kind of keep that in mind. Distance is always going to be your first one, though. So we don't know what the distance is. We know that our rate, okay, our speed here is 80 feet per week. And our time is 6 weeks. Now, when we're looking at our distance, we're going to be taking our distance up here. We're going to be covering that up. That leaves us with our rate and our time that we have. These two are next to each other. When we're looking for our distance, we're going to be multiplying our two different numbers. Right next to each other, we need to multiply. So we end up getting 480. Now, we're going to look at our rate to tell us what our label is going to be. We already have weeks. This right here is telling us that our distance is going to be in feet. This triangle, very, very helpful to help you solve these problems. If we're looking for the distance, you're going to cover that up. Think about what's left over. They're next to each other, and you're going to multiply those. If we're looking for the rate, we're going to cover that up. That leaves us with d over t, or distance divided by time. If we're looking for the time, we're going to cover that up. D over r, same as distance divided by our rate. Keep in mind, labels are important on this one. Your distance and time will just have one label. Your rate will always have the dual label. So, for example, miles per hour or feet per week. Rate always going to be having that dual. So you're going to be taking a look at the other two to kind of help you figure out those ones. So they all work together here. If you have any questions, please make sure that you're asking. This is our last lesson for Chapter 12. We're going to do a couple quick lessons for Chapter 13, then you're going to be done. So this is your last week of math, and we are going to continue with these daily assignments just to make sure that we get as much practice in and that you're prepared for next year as well. Okay, have a good one.